Bridges.
Chris Bridges is the author of several books on credit management.
Credit card debt is based on average daily balances, right? So if you pay it off earlier in the reporting cycle or that credit card cycle, then you're going to cut out some of that.
That makes me so happy.
I would recommend that everyone is monitoring their credit report. We're entitled to a free credit report once a year, but that's 12 months that you would have had something negative sitting out there, right? So if you are signed up with one of the consumer monitoring services, at least you'll be notified sooner that there's something negative. You've got to check your account more regularly than once a month. It used to be that you could check your, do your reconciliation once a month. Now you should probably want to check it on a regular basis, every other day or so, just to make sure that there have been no breaches. If there are things that are derogatory on your credit report, address them today.
I wanted Kymberly to come and hang out with me for a bit today on the broadcast because Kymberly and I are putting together a very special event this Saturday. I'm super excited. You excited? I'm excited.
I am really excited.
I'm excited. We're putting together an event. It's going to be a complimentary, because I'm going to be careful with that word free. It's free, whatever. Free event on Saturday the 23rd in Largo, Maryland. So I know that our watchers and viewers are watching us all around the world. So this is not something, unfortunately, right today that we're going to be streaming live, but it is maybe next time. So maybe next time we'll do live stream. Maybe we can come into the studio. No, we can't do all that. That's too much going on. But we'll figure a way how to stream it live. But it's going to be in Largo, Maryland this Saturday from 1 to 4 o'clock. And Kymberly and I are going to come in and we're going to talk about this B word, and it's called the Bankruptcy Protection and Credit Restoration Workshop. And, we're just going to kind of break it all down. And really, we encourage all of you to come out and register. But you got to register now. You got to register at creditwithchris.com. It's not on this flyer, so just write it down. You got to go register at creditwithchris.com so in order to make sure that you have a seat, because space is filling up real quick.
That's fantastic.
It is good. One day I said to you, Kymberly, we need to do an event.
Yes.
And in my instinct, I knew that this would be an event that people would want to come out to. And a lot of times in both of our work, you as a bankruptcy attorney, me as a credit expert, a lot of times people, you'll think, who wants to talk about that? Those are the two very, very sensitive and private subjects, right? But we know, and I think this event, in promoting this event, we're finding that people do want to talk about it, and they're not afraid or ashamed to come out. So I'm really excited that we agreed to put on this event.
Me too. And I'm also excited because Chris and I met about 4 years ago now.
The time goes so
and
fast.
We've been really working together on this for a long time. And so the fact that, first of all, this isn't the first event we've done. It's not the first time we've talked about the B word.
Right, the B word.
And when we met, we talked about how difficult it is to get people to come in and talk about things that would make their lives easier.
Right.
Just information. And as you said, we did a lot of free events, and that seemed to somehow convey that it wasn't valuable.
Yeah.
But what happens with more sophisticated issues, if we can't at least get you in the door and have you talking from a place of information, we can't get you to the next level.
Right.
So the fact that we can now kind of joke about it and call it the B word, and people are filling up those seats so quickly, which is wonderful, speaks to the fact that we're getting the word out and people are getting help. And so that feels great.
Yeah, it really does. I think
feels great.
What I'm hearing, and I know you're talking to a lot of people, and thank you all so much for those of you who are helping us to promote this event. I wish we could call it something different. It's an event. It's an informational event. We're going to have fun. But most importantly, we're going to our desire and our prayer is that we change lives. And when you leave out, because I've had some people who've been contemplating it already, thinking, I said, you need to just be there on Saturday. Because I think on Saturday, some of your questions will be answered and you'll get an opportunity to decide, is this something that I need to pursue?
Exactly.
So the people that I'm talking to seem to be hungry for it, because
tired.
That's what I was thinking. They're tired. Tired of not knowing, tired of not having so much lack. Not having anybody to really go talk to. I tell folks, listen, when you attach to somebody who has information or knowledge about something that you don't have, then you need to utilize that service.
You do.
Utilize that resource. It's a resource. Utilize that resource. And I know that. We think about events on Saturdays and people, because they don't pay, they don't show up. I always say, so when I've come out and spoken and people, maybe the crowd wasn't as large as people expected it to be because it was free, is people will value what's important to them. Right. And I believe that the people who will be there on Saturday, even though we didn't ask them to pull out their credit card, are the people that are committed to the changes in their life. That's all we want.
That's correct.
That's what we want, right?
And so often people say to me, when they come to see me at the office, for instance, after we have our first meeting, they'll say to me that they were so nervous about coming or so upset about coming. You can just see it on their face because they're stressed, and sometimes there's tears. And when they leave, there's just kind of a weight. You can just see their posture is different, and they kind of make eye contact a little differently. And I'm like, well, you look better than when you first came in. And taking that first step toward a solution is so empowering. And really why I got into this work was to empower people. Right. And I'm a debtors only, as Chris knows, I'm a debtors only bankruptcy attorney. So
explain that. They don't know what that means.
Well, there's two ways as in any law, well, I should say most any law case, there's always at least two sides. And so there's, in this case, there are the debtors, the people like us who owe the money, and then there's the creditors to whom we owe. And some bankruptcy attorneys, which is perfectly fine, they actually represent just creditors. So, for every debt that I try to help my clients manage or avoid, there's a creditor who is trying to get paid.
Get money.
So there are attorneys that are just creditor attorneys, and then there are attorneys that do both. I made the decision that I was going to be strictly a debtor's attorney for the individual. I just felt from a social justice perspective, it's something that worked well for me, and it makes me feel like I'm helping people. I have a great deal of litigation experience and statutory experience, and I wanted to use my skills and my gifts in a way that would help people who were truly struggling and trying to make a difference in their lives. And so as a debtor's attorney, it's really very important to see people empowered and to see people with knowledge who can help themselves, help their families, make good choices. Chris and I have talked about the wealth gap before, and how in certain communities there is such a disparity of wealth, and it's no more than the lack of information.
I was going to say, we think, we weren't born in this particular family, or I didn't have, this wasn't my grandfather, or whatever. A lot of it, too. I watched the other day, what's the movie with Will Smith? And he played Chris Gardner.
Which one are you talking
about? Chris Gardner, who was the investment banker.
Oh.
What was it? Happy, y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Y'all know what I'm talking about. Happy something. Happy.
With his son was in it too.
Yeah, with his son in it.
Yes.
And I was watching that the other day, and it just brought to me, I thought, what determination. He got up every day and put on his one suit. He had one suit. He put on his one suit, and he went into Dean Witter, and they had no idea that at night he was racing to see if he can get a spot with his child in the studio.
That's right.
Nobody knew what he was going through, but he was determined that he was going to make a difference in his life, and he made some sacrifices, because I think anytime we want to make a change, so no matter where you are or who born into what family, you've got to you've got to be willing to make some changes. And one of the things is getting information.
That's correct.
Because like you said, I could see that. I could see someone that comes into you and already broken down and have this kind of cloud on them, and then by the time they leave, it's a whole, because you've given them information. Information is powerful.
It is powerful.
It's a powerful thing. So
it is powerful.
That's a good thing in what you do. That's why we connect.
I'm really excited. I'm excited that people are coming in and taking time out of their day to really better themselves and to make some choices that are going to help them with their financial futures. For and if you do it correctly
Right.
for generations to come, which is really how we have to start thinking
Absolutely.
about things, is past
And
us.
right there on the bottom of the page, creditwithchris.com. That's my website, creditwithchris.com. Right there on the homepage, you'll see some information about this workshop. Don't just say, nod your head while you're watching us now and say, okay, yeah, I'm going. No, I need you to register. So if you're going, or if you're on Facebook and you're, responding to the event, and you're saying, yeah, I'll be there. That's great. But we need you to register. So go to the website and register so we'll know who's actually going to be in the place and help us to manage, our day a little bit better. So now that we gave a little bit of...
Should we tell them how it's going to be set up a little bit? Because we're really doing something that's very, I would like to call it holistic.
Hands-on, too. I think you put that in there.
Well, we're going to be hands-on,
Yeah,
right? You
yeah,
guys,
absolutely.
the people coming are going to be doing things. You're not going to be sitting there passively getting information. We want you to be involved in this because one, it'll be more fun.
Right.
And two, it'll be more memorable, and it'll be information that really you can carry with you into your lives and share with
absolutely.
others. The other thing, though, that I think is important is there's so much that happens after the discharge. As many people know, the bankruptcy process, depending on which chapter you file, has a finite time period. And we'll talk more about what those time periods are on Saturday. But then after you get your discharge, which is fantastic for me, then I'm out of the picture. But there's a whole life, and you even say in your trailer how important it is to monitor your credit.
Right.
And Chris then has services that help you manage your assets for the rest of your lives. And something that I've always wanted to do, and why I was so happy when I met you, Chris, was it gave me the ability to have people work with you after the discharge, like what happens.
Right.
And in fact, that's kind of the title of your book.
Right, it is.
You know,
Credit in Bankruptcy, Rebuilding After the Financial Storm.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because people need to know what to do. So the way our workshop is set up, it's set up in such a way that we're going to talk about bankruptcy and what that does for you, which is powerful. And most people
say that again, because I think that's what they're going to be most surprised about.
It's powerful.
They're most surprised that bankruptcy
powerful.
can be powerful.
It is a powerful process, and I always like to say, as you and I've talked about, I like to call it bankruptcy protection. It's a tool. It is something that people use to help them with their assets, and frankly, you have to have things. You have to be in a position of having things, even if it's a paycheck, if it's property, what have you. You have to have things for bankruptcy to benefit you. If you don't have anything, you don't really need bankruptcy. It's people who have things and who want to grow and to take care of their families and have security that need to be thinking about bankruptcy. And people who want to save their retirement that you're definitely going to need.
Right.
These are the ways that you do it legally.
Right.
Do you have any idea when the first bankruptcy law was written?
No, I don't.
Would it surprise you to know that it's hundreds of years old?
No.
1546 was the first.
Wow. 1546.
So bankruptcy
what was going
law
on back then?
Well, it was written in Europe, first of all.
Okay.
Okay. So, but what's interesting is that the first written bankruptcy law is older than our country, right? Because our country wasn't in existence until 1776. So, the bankruptcy system is a very well thought out, very
that
necessary.
is amazing. That is amazing.
Isn't it?
Yeah, actually.
Isn't it?
It
is really deep when you think about
when you think about it, yeah.
And that people don't know about it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Or that they're scared of it, or they don't really know how to use it.
A couple of weeks ago or so, when one of the recent broadcasts I did, I actually talked about the history of credit. And one of the things that I talked about then, too, but it wasn't until President Bush, the son, was in office that they passed a law to give us access to our credit reports through the annual creditreport.com.
I didn't realize
And you
that.
think,
yeah.
what? So our grandmother, they may have gotten approved or denied for things, but they didn't even have rights to get access to see what their consumer reports look like. So very interesting history. I didn't realize that about. So we're going to talk about all of that. We're going to give you some history because I think it's important to sort of know how these things came about. And then understand, what are they there for?
That's
I love it when you say it's protection. It's not just to wake up one morning and say I don't want to pay my creditors anymore.
Right. That's right.
I want to get a new house. I don't want this one anymore, or I want to get a new wardrobe. I don't want this debt I have on my credit cards. No, that's not what this is about. This is about really allowing you to walk into a better place in your life, but using the laws as a way to protect your assets. So I think that that's really important
I do
to
too.
talk about that.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. And then to figure out what you do, how do you then go about reestablishing credit? I mean, how long is it going to take you to get the credit that you want? How would you go about buying a house? Are you going to even get credit card offers? I think people are going to be really surprised to hear the answer
and
to that.
even, you know, having someone like Paula Caruso at the car, we did a broadcast, and of course, you know, with her explaining how car dealers look at it, because I was just with someone recently and they made a statement about, you know, buying a car after bankruptcy, it's going to be, you know, interest rates are going to be so high. That's actually not the case. It's not the case. Now, you may have to shop, you know, so don't go into the only place, one place, and walk in and just get whatever it is that they give you. You may have to look around, but that's actually not the case because they know that you can't file again. So I think, you know, exactly. Right. So I think one of the things that we're most excited about is dispelling some myths because, Kymberly, I don't know about you, but I get some people ask me some questions. I'm like, wow, where did you get that from? And it's really about, we know from our environment, you know, I don't know anything about taxes. I mean, I know enough. That's not my area of expertise. So the things that we don't know about, I'm not as good in. You know, quite honest, people always think I am. You're great with math. No, I'm not. I know credit. I'm great at that. But
you are great at that.
But any other area is not quite. Just because I know those three numbers don't mean I know all about math. Ask my third grader when she's coming home, and I'm like, wait for your father to get home. But, you know, but a lot of times it's about myths. It's about, you know, we operate off of where we are and the people around us. And so that's a piece or two that I'm excited that we'll get a chance to dispel some myths. And coming, you know, don't ask your friends. Just come to the workshop, hear it directly from us so that you have, you know, the right information. You know, then you can go check it. Just like my pastor says when he teaches a message, now you go seek the Bible and find out for yourself. So you can go and, you know, check us out if you want to, but come in and at least get the information from us. And don't just ask people who you don't know. And by the way, you know, one thing about bankruptcy was we talk about this. Why is it that it is such a shameful thing? Why is it about, and especially in certain communities, not all, but in certain communities, it's because we don't talk about it. It's such a shame. You know, you have, you know, people come, like you said, they come in like, oh, I gotta file bankruptcy, and it's not a bad thing. Well, we gotta do something about that.
It's very freeing, actually. People get to the point where they feel very free, having unburdened themselves with debts that are overpowering them and deferring their dreams and the dreams of their children and, frankly, their future. And they don't really know even that, you know, some of the protections that the bankruptcy law applies. So most of it is a lack of knowledge, I think. I do think that, you know, there was a time when it was looked at differently, but I think that under this new economy, there's a lot of different things that we have to look at and see differently. And so many businesses use it. You're seeing for the first time in history, so many cities are using it. I know most people identify with the bankruptcy in Detroit because it was a little closer to this area. But cities, especially on the West Coast, Vallejo, San Bernardino, trying to think of there's several other cities in California proper that have filed bankruptcy and other places, and then Detroit filed. And what you heard in the media was that you're going to see a lot of other cities doing it, and you see companies doing it, and you see companies doing it actually. Sometimes they have to, but they do what they need to do to survive. Right. And what I try to impart to all my clients is your household is a business.
It's a business.
Whether it's just you or whether it's you and your spouse or you and your spouse and your children, your household is a business and you have a balance sheet. And if that balance sheet is out of whack, you've got to look at it just like Hostess or American Airlines or Kodak. And these are all companies that have filed bankruptcy recently and done so to better themselves in the long run and to come back stronger and to rebuild themselves. Michael Vick filed bankruptcy and came back stronger. These are things that you do. You don't understand how to use it. I do kind of joke a little bit and say, you know, being afraid of bankruptcy is brought to you by the same people who tell you not to discuss your paycheck at work. And it's a way of saying that everyone needs knowledge.
Right, absolutely.
We shouldn't be in a situation where the individuals who are working so hard every day are the last to get knowledge that will help them better their position, because we all work far too hard in this country not to take full
And, you know,
advantage.
I heard you talk one time about businesses who actually put bankruptcy as a strategy in their business plans. So, and then when you just brought it together to say your household, your family is a business. So why not look at bankruptcy as a way to help you, like you said, become stronger.
That's correct.
And one of the things I think people also may not understand is some of the things that you can put in a bankruptcy and some of the things that you can't put. So if they're listening and saying, I'm not sure, can you give us just a quick, and I know it depends on the situation and it depends on the particular current situation with that profile with that particular client, but can you give us some idea, if we're talking about bankruptcy, what are some of the reasons why people may even file bankruptcy?
Well, the top 3 reasons, I think the easiest way to go about it would be the top 3 reasons why people file bankruptcy. The number 1 reason still is medical bills, even though we've got the fantastic National Health Care Act now. And that should change things, hopefully, and make it a little easier. Medical bills are getting higher and higher, and I actually read a report recently, and I don't know how it's all the economics of it, but there are, like, for instance, cancer drugs. The cost of cancer drugs is steadily going up. So even if we have the National Health Care Act, it's not taking care of all of these exponentially high bills. So the number 1 people file bankruptcy, in fact, 60% in 2013, which was last really hard numbers that we had, were because of medical bills. That's an unsecured debt. And I cannot tell you how many people go into their retirement with bad information, take that out to pay medical bills, that they're then going to need that retirement later in life at a point in which they no longer are wage earners.
That happened to a personal, a family, a member of ours. Spouse passed away, and the creditors, when you're in that time, you're not thinking straight. You're thinking about your loved one. You're thinking about care, wanting to make sure that they have the best care. And my family member, that's exactly what happened. The medical facility didn't force her, but it was almost like, we need to make sure that you personally guarantee this debt, almost like, we won't care for him. And so what do you expect someone to do? So it's really an unfortunate thing, and without sharing the information with us, made a decision, went in, took half of the retirement to pay the medical bill.
And that's so dangerous. It's so dangerous for people who have to be in that situation and just not know that, because when you're older and you can't work the way you used to work, and things could change even more to have even less support for us, you're not going to be in a position to take care of yourself, and you're going to need those funds. And one of the nice things about bankruptcy is retirement accounts, qualified retirement accounts, are completely protected. So there's nothing that a creditor can do to take it, which is invaluable in terms of what happens when you have a debt. But the second reason why people file bankruptcy is job loss. So people, we're doing better. We saw the numbers, in terms of the unemployment index, and that's going down, and that's fantastic. But it's an interesting situation, because if you've been sustaining yourself for a long time without a job, and then you're getting back into the market, chances are the creditors are going to kind of swoop in, because you're kind of back on the grid. As soon as you start getting a paycheck, you're back on the grid. And there's nothing worse than being out of work for a really long time, finally getting a job. Maybe it doesn't pay as much as you'd like, maybe it does, but in any case, you're in the hole, and they,
everybody wants the piece.
It's like the birds of prey. You just feel the hovering over you, and it's very difficult to get back on your feet when you're already a little unstable. So bankruptcy helps that group as well, or people who just are going to lose their job, or going to be laid off, because that's still unfortunately going on as well. The third reason why people file bankruptcy is because of the loss of the second income. So whether that's the breakup, divorce, death, or your spouse or partner or friend that you're living with loses their job, all of a sudden all the bills are your responsibility. And there are things that really affect people that way. And so those are the top 3 reasons, unlike what most people tend to think, which is, again, the kind of, I think, media aspect, which is that somehow people file bankruptcy because they're irresponsible.
I was just going to say that.
It's not
that
even one
stigma
of the top
that they're a bad
reasons.
person,
It's not even one of the top 3 reasons why people file bankruptcy.
And one of the things that I'm going to talk about on Saturday, because everything that you just discussed, some things are unforeseen and out of control.
That's right.
I had experience where my husband was laid off. Totally, you go in one morning, everything is fine. You have a great job. You're doing a great job, and all of a sudden they no longer need you because you're an employee at will. So it certainly happened to all of us when we've had this unexpected, unforeseen event. Even a medical issue is, you don't really expect that. You don't plan that. Exactly. You don't plan for that.
Tragedy.
So all of those things that has happened to us, there's also a way that we can be a little bit more proactive. And we're going to talk about that on Saturday. So to some degrees, it might be looking at how do you protect that income, because even the loss of a family member, what do you have in place to ensure that you may not be as vulnerable? I heard you say also last time we were together and you spoke and you said 60%, or was it 80%? 80% of Americans are one paycheck away from being insolvent. That is scary. And if you all don't know what that means, that basically means we're one paycheck away.
Well, actually from poverty. It was
poverty.
poverty. Because if you think about it, if you're one
That's even
paycheck
worse.
away from poverty, you're already insolvent.
Right,
You just
that's
don't
true.
know it.
Yeah.
People are insolvent. Like anything else, there's a spectrum. So there are people who can afford their debt. That doesn't mean they're solvent. It just means that they've got a good job and they get a good paycheck and they make enough to pay their debt off. Now that can be a blessing and a curse, because that means you can be making some bad decisions about the kind of debt you're paying. Second mortgages on undervalued homes would be an example of that. And there's something that bankruptcy can do, even if you don't, quote, need it. It's a really good financial tool to really better yourself in the long run. You pay, you get a sting right now for a long-term gain. And so you think more strategically, and that is fantastic. I mean, that's when I really get excited. But then when people come through my door at the other end, it's the other side of the spectrum where you can't afford your debt. And because so many of the unsecured creditors are so aggressive, if you think about it, people do fall prey to unsecured creditors because the thing about unsecured creditors is that they're unsecured. So all they have is their bark. They've got to scare you.
They got to get behind the things that have an actual attached collateral.
The law puts them down the list in terms of a priority creditor. They're not a priority creditor, so they've got to get to you first. And I know a lot of people, as you said, make decisions where they pay their credit cards before they pay their house note. And that creates a whole nother symphony of problems. So we're going to talk about all of that so that people know the strategy. If you're in a situation or a loved one is in this situation or even a friend, or you're going into something, you're like, I don't know, I'm getting ready to get into a situation where this might be information I need. Come in. We're going to make it fun and interesting.
I think what we haven't even addressed, and some people who may be watching this broadcast, somebody. I mean, when I wrote that book, Credit and Bankruptcy, Rebuilding After the Financial Storm, I know I wrote that book because if we look in a room, everyone knows someone who's either thought about filing bankruptcy, someone who's actually filed bankruptcy, or someone who's already filed. Everybody knows someone. We've all kind of been there. Maybe you thought about it. Is that the right thing for me? But you just didn't know. Or maybe you aren't in a place that you can file. Everyone can't file for bankruptcy. So another thing is, don't kind of have that as, you're going to pull that out as your wild card. You need to know whether or not you even qualify, because everyone does not just qualify because you don't want to, again, you want to get out of the debt, you don't want to pay your bill. So it's important to understand the pros and the cons, the good and the bad, but most importantly, it's important to know that there is life after bankruptcy. And some of those pictures that we played had up, I know. Some of those pictures we did a broadcast right here on Living on Top with Chris Bridges, and we had, Kymberly was with me, and that's an interesting picture of me. He must be really into that subject I talked about. Well, that's Teresa Royal Brown right there, another friend of ours. And Teresa came, and so thankful for her testimony because she shared with us. I like that color. I don't want to get that color back in again. Anyway, Teresa shared, she actually filed bankruptcy, and she talked about, she had an 800 credit score.
Wonderful book.
It's a great book. She had an 800 credit score before she filed bankruptcy. So she did not file bankruptcy because she was, so much in debt. She filed it to just get relieved of the debt that she had. But that was a broadcast we did. If you'd like to go back and actually watch that, because that was a powerful discussion, just like every time we come together, we have powerful discussions. But going out to livingontop.info, if you haven't already, register for at least our silver, which gives you free access to see some of our past broadcast. We've done about 40 episodes so far. So go back
a great library
and watch
you
that.
Really do.
Yeah, I think I had somebody text me
library.
today and she said, I'm sitting around watching your videos and they're awesome. And I'm like,
they are.
Oh. So if you're watching today, Tina, thank you. I love you. I love that feedback. Yeah, hi Tina. Love that feedback because you know what? We get up every day and we do us. We just do what God tells us to do. Right. But we don't always know that it's making an impact or a change in somebody else's life. And so when we hear it, for me at least, it's motivating to keep it up. So I appreciate you guys for all of your support. But one of the things, and I'm always talking all around the barn. My husband says I have a mind like spaghetti. I'll go from one subject to the other. But I was getting ready to say, before we wrap up and have to let you go, I was getting ready to say about the freeing of this because of the depression that it comes as well. So if you know someone that just does not see their way out and they're really depressed about their debt. I have a close friend of mine, grew up with her son is like my nephew, and he had slit his wrist over $3,000 worth of debt, 21 years old at the time. Thank God that there was restoration after that, because he's alive and well and married with a child, and he's doing well. But at that moment, that debt was so overwhelming for him that the only way that he saw out was to take his life. And so we want to stop that. We want to, get folks up in the room. And this may not be the only time. This is just the beginning. So let's come in together. Let's put the flyer up real quick, Eric, so everybody knows more about it. Again, this is the Bankruptcy Protection and Credit Restoration Workshop that Kymberly and I are going to be hosting this Saturday, the 23rd, right there in Largo, Maryland. It is complimentary. It's no cost to attend this workshop, but you have to register. You must register at creditwithchris.com. Go to creditwithchris.com. Right on the homepage, we'll get you the link to register, and share it. Please, please, please share it. If you're on social media right now, post this out. We've already got an event out there. Go and share. Let other people know what we're doing, so that you allow us to deposit into and sow some seeds into lives.
It was. Thank you for sharing that story about your friend's son, because I tell my clients also that when you go through a financial stress, and to kind of finish the story that you brought up earlier, that the statistics that show 80% of us are a paycheck away from poverty, it just shows you that we all are struggling. We may not know it, but we're all struggling. We can have more information to help us really deal with it. And what people find is when most of my clients come in, they're actually at the other end of the spectrum, where they're stressed and they're very upset, and they're trying to avoid a garnishment or a lawsuit, or they're just so tired and spent from all of the people calling them that they don't know what to do. And what Chris and I are trying to do is shorten that. I tell people it's like the 5 stages of grief. You go through the exact same 5 stages with financial trouble.
Absolutely.
You go through the whole denial, the bargaining, the depression, everything. You go through all 5 stages until you get to ultimate acceptance. And that's typically when I see people, when they're either finally accepting it or forced into acceptance. And what we're trying to do is shorten those. This is the kind of grief.
You don't have to go through all of that.
Right. This is unlike heartbreaking grief. This is the kind of grief that we can actually help you with. I mean, if you've got to deal with this kind of grief, this is by no means the worst kind of grief to deal with. Let us help you shorten it so that you can get on with your lives and get to the positive part to do what you're meant to do.
Absolutely. I can't wait. I'm super excited.
Me too.
I'm excited. Well, I'm so glad to take this opportunity on this platform to be able to talk about this event, because it's such a needed event, and you never know, we may be taking this around the country. So we need you to come out and give us some feedback, because it's not just here in Largo, Maryland area. We know that this information is needed all around the country, so that folks are hurting and people want to know how to help themselves, and all around the Maryland and DC area. So call us up if you've got if you're right here in DC or Maryland, and you've got a group you want us to come and take this on the road, because it is a much needed conversation.
I agree.
Well, Kymberly, you did a good job at co-hosting.
Well, thank my first co-host.
We might have to bring her back more often. I appreciate you. I know you got to go. I know you got to go. So love you. Give me a hug. All right.
You too.
I'll
Thank you for
later.
having me. You guys have a wonderful afternoon.
All right, guys, don't go away. I'm not going anywhere. We just have to say goodbye to Kymberly. She has to leave out. But I want to just kind of wrap up and talk a little bit about what I'm going to be sharing. We've already talked about kind of the life before or during the financial storm, and then how do you restore after the financial storm. And that's what I'm going to talk about, as well as, again, protecting those assets. So one of those 3 things that Kymberly said, see you later, babe. One of those 3 things that Kymberly said that people, number 1 reasons why people file bankruptcy. She said medical reasons. And again, I know certainly for myself, I've had some unforeseen medical things happen to me as well that has really kind of could have knocked me out. And so for some others, it absolutely, does. Medical reasons. Also, loss of income, whether it's your income or someone else's income. And so those 3 things we don't know. You don't know what's going to happen in our lives. If we had a crystal ball, guys, we'd all be rich, that's for sure, rich in money if we had crystal balls, but we don't. So we want to also talk about what happens and how do you restore after that financial storm, and especially from a credit perspective, because filing bankruptcy will impact your credit, but what is worse? A lot of times we'll say you take that little sting now, but getting an opportunity to get that debt from off of you, I have seen personal credit scores increase more after bankruptcy than while you're just trying to, robbing Peter to pay Paul. So we're going to talk about what is important, what are the specific steps, the strategies that are necessary for you to rebuild your credit after a bankruptcy, and how do you get back on track. And so I'm so excited to share that, because a lot of times we don't know that there's life after that. And all you know is someone said that bankruptcy is going to stay on your credit report for 10 years. Well, that's not always the case. So again, come on out and join us on Saturday the 23rd, right out there in Largo on Apollo Drive, where we talk about the bankruptcy protection and credit restoration workshop. And so Kymberly and I are committed to this event. We're committed to sharing the knowledge with you. And we're just really excited about changing lives. We expect to get those testimonies after Saturday, and hopefully we hear some from you. So share it with others. If you're on social media, please go out and let everybody know what we're doing. You just got to register at creditwithchris.com. It's no cost to attend the workshop. However, we're going to give you a ton of valuable information. We could put a price tag on it, but we decided not to, because we'd rather have more people in the place so that we can help to make your lives a little bit better. So thank you so much in advance for filling up the room, and in advance for the testimonies, because I know we're going to have them. So I wanted to also kind of go back and give you guys a couple of other tips. I've recently, and you all know, whatever I experience, I come and I share. And so I recently had a discussion, I think I've said this before, about contacting your creditors. So I'm going to encourage you again, if you have been with a particular service provider, whether it's your insurance, whether it's your wireless, whether it's your cable bill, whether it's your home phone. I mean, there are people, I still have a home phone number. I'm wondering, like, every month, why am I paying this home phone bill? But most people don't, but maybe you have a wireless bill. I encourage you guys to listen. Call them up. Call your current providers every so often and ask them about, reevaluating your costs. I just did this again. I think I shared with you before. I did this with DirecTV about a year or so ago and saved about $100 off of my bill. And so every so often I do this. I just did this recently and saved a tremendous amount on another type of bill. So listen, don't just, get an account and pay it every month and kind of forget about it. Make sure that you're checking. And if you've had challenged credit when you first got your insurance, whether it's property casualty, which is like your car insurance or your home insurance, if your credit was challenged when you first got that insurance and now your credit is in a better place, call your insurance company. It's time to do some rate shopping, okay? Because your premiums are about 30 to 50% of your premiums could be upcharged due to credit. Now, on the flip side, if you had good credit when you first got your insurance and now you've had life happen, because we know life happens, and your credit could be impacted, then hold off. Don't call them, because you don't want to get a new quote with your current credit score, okay? But just, again, encouraging you to check with your creditors every so often. There is money that you are missing out on, either in savings or any other area when you're looking at your expenses. You can be saving money by just doing the small things right there in your own home, with your own phone, instead of having to worry about how you're going to save some money. You could be doing some things right there, and calling your creditors is definitely one of them. And also, on that same note, if you've got credit cards, call your credit card companies. If you've been making positive pays on your credit cards, call your credit card companies every so often, 6 months or so, or 9 months, and ask them for an increase in your credit limit. Now, I'm only talking to those of you who are mature enough to handle that. So you can get an increase in your credit limit, but I do not want you to increase your spending. I want you to maintain your spending at low levels, low balances on your credit cards, but I want you to increase your limit. What that does is automatically give you a wider gap on your debt to income, or your ratio between the limit and the balance on your credit cards. Okay, I think I've taught about that enough. You all know that that's 30% of your credit score. So right there, another little tip is to increase your limit, and then again continue to pay down your balances. So those are a few things that I wanted to leave with you. I try to give you a couple of tips throughout the weeks. But again, let's put the flyer back up about the event. Make sure you register. Kymberly and I are so excited, and we can't wait to share with you. We're going to be in Largo, Maryland on Saturday, May the 23rd for the Bankruptcy Protection and Credit Workshop. Yes, we're going to be addressing the B word, so you need to come out and understand pros and cons. Is this the right thing for you, and how can bankruptcy be used as a strategy to help protect you and build wealth. So we can't wait to see you out. It is a free event, but you must register. Go to creditwithchris.com. Again, go to creditwithchris.com and register today. Space is filling up, so we want to make sure that you're in the place. Also, continue to connect with us here on Living on Top with Chris Bridges. Go to Facebook. We do have a Facebook page. It's LOTCB, as well as on social media all over is creditwithchris.com. So make sure that you connect with me. And again, if you're on social media doing this broadcast, use LOTCB as our hashtag. That's LOTCB. And then we can keep you in the loop of what we're doing. Last thing, I think I said this before, pull out your smartphones, your Apples or Androids or whatever you got, and I want you to text the word LOT right in the subject. Text in LOT and text it to 301-880-0041. That's 301-880-0041. That's the way to get you connected in to our text service so that we can keep you abreast of what we're doing here on the broadcast. Listen, guys, I got to get out of here. I appreciate you. It's been another awesome week here on Living on Top with Chris Bridges. I thank my co-host today, Miss Kymberly Jackson with the Phoenix Law Firm. And if you want to hear more about that B word, be in the place with us on Saturday for our free workshop called Bankruptcy Protection and Credit Restoration. So make sure you register at creditwithchris.com. The website's right there on the bottom of the banner. And I appreciate you all again. Thanks for all your support. And remember, if you're in the DMV, go visit Sheehy Ford. They've got some great things happening. And tomorrow night, they've got their grand opening of their new showroom from 4 to 8 right there on Auth Road. I'll be there. So come by and say hello and get some free food. Okay? All right, you guys, stay tuned for the Nicole Mason Show coming up right behind me here on Listen Vision Live, and I'll see you all next week. Until then, stay blessed and continue to live on top. Bye-bye.